New week, new topics. You are watching Listen to Black Women. Pull up because it's about to get started. I'm Shamika Sanders, and beside me are my lovely co-hosts, Kiara Kelly and Africa Miranda. Let's get into it, ladies. On a recent episode of TV One's Sister Circle, Pastor John Gray, who you may know as the man who caused a little bit of controversy around that Sierra level up stuff, he's back at it with the controversial comments. He went on TV and made these comments. The wife that I chose is better than the man I am. I had to grow into a venter. She's a coat. I still can't fit her. And she's had to cover me while I grow up. She's a covering, not a lid. If a man marries a lid, she'll stop your dream. But if you marry a covering, she'll push you to your destiny. My wife has endured more pain birthing me than our 2 children. You may be asking yourself, why is this an issue? Sounds right, covering, lids, coats. Oh, it's winter. But it's a problem because the church and the pastor, many people feel like this is encouraging the suffering of Black women. So ladies, let's get into it. This all brings us to our question of the week. Should women birth men?
Short answer. Absolutely not. Show's over. Thanks for tuning in. No, it's just, and I've been very vocal about this with you guys. There are just so many industries now that are built on preying on the insecurities and desperation of Black women. And specifically, I feel like the church is one of the biggest culprits. He was on a show to promote a book.
Yes.
And once again, here's another man telling a woman what we need to do to be chosen, to be valued. And it just continues to promote just this story of how we have to mule to be worthy. It's too much, and there's no balance.
And just bouncing off the idea of balance, one of the problems I had with what John Gray said is there's not really a scriptural reference to back up and substantiate his points. But the problem is people hear these anecdotes and they just run through the hills for it. And to me, the word that I read, it says, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, but it also says, husbands, submit yourselves to your wife and love your wife as Christ loved the church. It don't say, be a coat 2 sizes too big. I'm just having a problem finding that within scripture.
It's become like a badge of honor for women to withstand everything they could withstand from a man. And because of that, in pop culture, we see these anecdotes, people using them so loosely, like Kevin Hart, he throws around this, oh, my rib. And you know what's even funny about that is because Aventer in her clapback defended it, and she started to list all of the biological functionalities of ribs. It's like, sis, that is what literally a rib for your body is for. Women, we are not here to provide your breathing functionality and to protect your heart. Metaphorically, maybe yes, but physically, we are not here to withstand everything that a man throws at us. Let's take it to the social media streets because I want to see what other people are saying. Nikki's thoughts. She had a long post on Instagram, but when I tell you she was reading from beginning to the end, to sum it all up though, basically she's saying, I have no desire to save you. But my favorite part of what she wrote was, listen up, my sisters are no longer here to receive promissory notes or post-dated checks paying them long after they've put in their work of suffering at the expense of making you great and rehabbing your raggedy asses. Wow. Come on, sis. Wow.
Raggedy is such a, it rolls off the tongue. It feels so good.
It's good. It also reminds me too about the post-dated checks and all of that when we were talking about weathering before. Yes. Because even though Black women, Black don't crack, we age beautifully, but the internal weathering, emotional weathering is also a thing.
And some people were on the other side of the fence with this and actually rode hard for what Pastor John Gray said. Ganja Queen 310 wrote, he wasn't talking about raising a man at the end of the day. Worldly and spiritual are 2 different things. The worldly issues we have with men, such as paying bills, deadbeats, womanizers, living off of women, isn't what he meant by birthing. That's an issue for a community discussion. But his message is about spiritual growth. You can't raise a man. It's not our job. But spiritual, a husband and wife must grow together.
I will admit this, there was a time that I would have heard this, John Gray, everything he said, and been like, yes, you're right. But you have to do some introspection. You have to do some self-work and look at the status of our relationships and the history of Black love. Why is it so traumatic? Yeah. And she's saying it's worldly versus spiritual. No, it may be that again in her marriage, but the average person and the average woman is being told you've got to survive your man to get to the love and support. It's why are we having to survive love?
We are human beings, we are spiritual beings having a worldly experience.
Exactly.
We are in the world, so whatever is going on in him spiritually is gonna affect us in this world.
Yeah. I just think about the relationships that our parents endured and all the trauma they had to go through. And it was a very different time. And I think that they're still coming from the standpoint of once you survive all of this, everything they've done, oh, it's a badge of honor. It's that validation that we're getting through a man versus validation that we're getting through ourselves. All insightful messages on social media, but I want to know what the audience is saying. What do the polls say, Kiara?
As always, we poll our Madame Noir audience to find out what you think about these topics. We asked the audience, should broken men date, or should they wait until they fix their issues before they go out looking for a partner? With 98% saying that man needs to work on himself first, and 2% said he needs to work it out with a partner. This is very interesting because I will say, I think it's different when you are going through therapy, acknowledging some of your issues. I think it's really unfair to say people have to be perfectly whole and complete because none of us are. We're all works in progress. And I know I've been in relationships. If they were waiting on me to become the perfect person, they'd still be waiting. So I still want to use a little bit of caution with it. It's more, is he willing to work through his stuff?
I mean, I also think there are deal breakers. So like, I think there are certain things that you have to work on that before you get into a committed relationship. And I think also being in a partnership and a relationship forces situations that make you grow. But that's not to be confused with mamas pawning their child off because they didn't raise them right.
And everybody loves, to bring it back to religion to talk about being evenly yoked. That's more than just saying we're both single. Like it talks about where we are emotionally, financially, like where we are in our lives. And it's just if one person has done the work and the other person hasn't, you are not evenly yoked.
We also asked our readers, when it comes to putting in effort in handling the workload from day-to-day responsibilities to emotional maturity and support, what's the ratio in your relationship? With 45% saying it goes about 50-50. Another 45% saying he's about 30% and I'm doing 70. Wow. And 10% saying he's about 10% and I'm doing 90. Over half of the people that we polled feel like they're carrying most of the work.
It's just sad because I think most women just think that this is normal. And it's only now because of conversations like this, I think that are now starting to happen on social, that people are starting to wake up and go, oh, this isn't normal. Like, I couldn't believe that John Gray sat on that show and no woman there was like, well, actually.
And even just when you think of what he said, Aventer was 2 sizes too big for him. That means that he was 2 sizes too small for her. Yes. And what does that look like when we are constantly yoking ourselves to men who are 2 sizes too small for us? They are our lid at that point.
Exactly. So to keep the conversation going, we are bringing it back to social. John Gray's wife, Aventer Gray, had a lot to say post his comments with all of, the uproar on social media. So her post starts with, "The devil hates marriage." So Aventer says, oh, I get it. The devil hates marriage. He hates us for catching on to him. He hates what exposing his agenda and freeing up mindsets does when husbands and wives actually understand his tactics and that they aren't each other's enemy, but have a common one. Makes perfect sense. What I don't like as a single woman is that anytime these comments are made, married women's first thing is like, oh, it's an attack on marriage, and if you're single and you've never been married, you can't speak and you don't understand the pain. But I, as a single woman, want to say, well, you don't understand what it's like to be a single woman and hear this messaging your entire life, especially as a Black woman, that this is what you have to look forward to, and this is what you, again, have to survive. Like, does the devil hate marriage, or does everybody just hate Black women? It is time to start questioning everything that we've been taught. The same way that Black people have internalized white supremacy and we have these same issues within our community, Black women have internalized this years of misogyny. I love God, I love religion, all of those things, but we are being crazy if we're not going to acknowledge the fact that the Black church is perpetuating so much of this information, and Black women are eating it up, and it is to our detriment.
The problem is when you hear those anecdotes, you don't get the full story. There could have been ways that he helped his wife Aventer that we don't know. But we don't get the full story. We just get an anecdote, and then people read that as the word because he's a pastor. Exactly. And you're expecting the word from a pastor.
I think that we should learn what strength is, and that you have to define what strength means to you. Exactly. I used to think that strength meant taking everything that you could throw at me and doing it with a smile. But I learned that there is strength in saying no and saying that this is not for me and I won't take this anymore.
We all should really look at, too, what men and women should consider. Like, what should they be, the questions you should be asking, you should be considering before you even get into a relationship. There have to be deeper questions other than, well, if we met at church, he's a good man. It's no, where are you in your life? What baggage are you carrying that you need to deal with? What are you ignoring? It's just because that's where the partnership comes from. I can support you happily if you are also doing the work.
Such insightful points, ladies. I learned so much from this conversation. I hope you all did too, both men and women, because it's important on both ends. Until we meet again next week, bye-bye, guys. Have a good week. Oh, and make sure you check out HellaBeautiful.com and MadameNoir.com for this and more.